periodontitis? Okay, that's good. Okay, I will try to explain you slowly. Maybe this is new for you, but we have to learn this in this module, also the skills lab. So the aim is, when given a radiograph, the students must be able to make a radio diagnosis, the radiographic image of periodontal ligament. In order to have diagnostic information from a radiograph can be optimal, whatever the projection, the radiographic interpretation of disease or abnormal lesions in the jaw must be carried out correctly, systematically, and gradually. So this is the process that we will do the interpretation as always, quality evaluation, and the general view and specific investigation. We already done this in the last week, but on the topic of caries. So general view, it is very important to capture the impression of the overall radiographic change. Avoid focusing only on changes that seems dominant. Some of the information might be missing if we directly focus on the specific view. Do it immediately when you start reading radiographs from a certain distance. Don't take too long. Things to remember: lighting and room conditions, because we will do the interpretation on the lamina dura, and ligament periodontal is very, very detailed, and we need the sharpness. So lighting and room conditions, such as we need to turn off the lighting. It's very helpful. And then use image enlarger is necessary, such as a lux. Compare with normal. Remember the anatomical structure. You need to remember how is the normal of periodontal ligament, periodontal condition. And then remember the limitations of 2 dimensions. Sometimes you cannot see the lamina dura, but it's still intact in that patient. Because that is 2 dimensions. Okay, sometimes it's superimposed. And do it systematically and always consistently. Radiographic assessments of periodontal condition. You can see it detailed in Parwa. There are 10 steps that you need to evaluate. The first one is amount of bone present. Now we focusing on the ligament periodontium, not only on the teeth. Last week we focusing on the teeth, on the caries of the teeth. Now we focusing on the ligament periodontal condition. Amount of bone present, condition of the alveolar crest, bone loss in the furcation areas, width of the periodontal ligament space, and then local irritation factors. And you need to remember there are 2 kinds of irritating factors locally, which is calculus or poorly contour or overextended restoration. That means if you write the radio diagnosis such as mild periodontitis, the et causa should be both of these, one of these, both case, calculus or poorly contour. You cannot write such as mild periodontitis et causa trauma from occlusion, because trauma from occlusion is not et causa. That is the faktor yang terberat. Apa itu? Predisposition factors. So you can write mild periodontitis et causa plaque and calculus, and with predisposing factors such as maybe trauma from occlusion or something like this. Maybe you can see there's a caries, so interproximal of the teeth is not good. Or maybe you can see there's occlusal line or foot infection, and that's all. So The next one, you evaluate root length and morphology and crown to root ratio. Open interproximal context, which may be sites for foot infection, anatomical considerations such as the position of the maxillary sinus in relation to a periodontal deformity, missing, supernumerary, impacted, and tip, and then pathology consideration. This is the pathology consideration, and then occlusal line, which may be sites for foot infection. So sometimes if the radiographs on the image that you can see, and the tip is the occlusal line is not good, so you can suspect maybe there's a foot infection. Okay, this is the normal anatomy that you need to remember in your mind. That is the normal alveolar crest lies 0.5 to 2.0 millimeter apical to the adjacent cemento-enamel junctions and form a sharp angle with the lamina dura of the adjacent tooth. Yeah, this one. The normal alveolar crest. This is the alveolar crest. Now we focusing on the periodontal condition. This is the alveolar crest. The normal is 0.5 to 2.0 millimeter according to the Parwa. Of course, if you see other reference such as White's Essential, you will see the different normal alveolar crest. It's 2.0 millimeter until 3.0 millimeter. But in this case, when we do the radiograph interpretation, usually we use Parwa as a reference book. But when we do about the radiography technique radiography, then we use Essential White's as a reference book. Yeah, please take notes. In Parwa, on Parwa, 0.5 to 2.0 millimeter. Now we can use that. That means if the bone alveolar crest still under 2 millimeter from cemento enamel junction, we still consider it normal. Okay. And another thing is between the anterior teeth, the normal alveolar crest, it should be pointed and well corticated and is located within still same of the adjacent cemento enamel junction. But in the posterior is horizontal, just like this. This is the normal. Okay, so if you still see the corticated, which is the radiopac line in here, this is the cortical bone in the alveolar crest. So we still consider it normal. Yeah. So there are 2 points here. The first one is if you can see the cortical bone in the alveolar crest, we still consider it normal. And then if it's already below the 2 millimeter, but you cannot see the cortical bone in the alveolar crest, you cannot say that it's still normal. It's already periodontitis, which is mild periodontitis. Mild periodontitis is from irregularity of the cortical bone. So it should be considered as mild periodontitis. If you see there's irregularity, I mean the cortical bone is not smooth like this, you can write there's a mild periodontitis in the diagnosis later. Okay, the next one is Now we talk about the early bone changes, which is mild. The early bone changes that occur in periodontitis appear as areas of localized erosion of the interproximal alveolar crest. In the anterior region of the jaws, there's blunting of the alveolar crest and slight loss of alveolar crestal bone height. It's like this, as I said before. This is, we can consider it as early bone changes or mild periodontitis. In the posterior region of the jaws, there might be loss of the normally acute angle between the lamina dura and the alveolar crest. In early stage of periodontal disease, this angle may lose its normal cortical surface or margin and appear rounded off with an irregular and diffuse border. Okay. I already give you the presentation. You can read it again if not very clear. If you cannot see the PowerPoint, especially in the back. Okay, the next one is even if only slight changes are apparent, the onset of the disease process may not be recent because there's a delay before evidence of bone loss is visible in an image. As well, variation in the projection angle of the incident exterior beam can cause a slight change in the apparent height of the alveolar crest. Small region of bone loss on the buccal or lingual aspect of the teeth are also much more difficult to detect. So you can see there's sometimes still a cortical bone but irregularity, just like this, or you cannot see at all the cortical bone. That means the cortical bone is already lost. Yeah. The next one is horizontal bone loss. After early bone changes, the cortical bone is the first defense mechanism of periodontal condition. Yeah. The cortical bone is the first defense of periodontal condition. That means if the cortical bone is lost, then the periodontitis will continue to spread to the periodontal condition. Horizontal bone loss. Horizontal bone loss is seen in the anterior region, A, just like this, horizontal bone loss, and the posterior region, B, as loss of the buccal and lingual cortical plates and interdental alveolar bone. Okay. This is the horizontal bone loss. So more than 2 millimeter, the amount of bone present. This is the first evaluating the amount of bone present. So this is the bone, maybe around 1/3 middle of the teeth. Now, there's a new classification for periodontal diseases. The first one is Lewis stage. Early stage 1. Bone loss may be defined as loss of up to 15% of the tooth root line, or a probing depth of 4 mm or less. This is the clinical examination. If we do the clinical examination, when you do the probing on the patient, and then you can find that the probe shows 4 mm or less probing depth, that means you can say that this patient has early stage 1, the first stage, bone loss. Stage 2 periodontitis is defined as bone loss between 15% and 30% of the root line, 1/6 or 1/3 of the root line. Yeah. This is stage 2 periodontitis, and probing depths of up to 5 mm. So if more than 4 mm, we can say that this patient has a stage 2 of periodontitis. That's easy. That's according to the clinical examination. The next one is more severe stage 3 and 4 periodontal disease. are defined as bone loss extending to the middle third of the tooth root and beyond with probing depth of 6 millimeter or more. So, as I mentioned it before, we do the anamnesis and then the clinical examination. When we do the clinical examination, then you can find that the patient has a probing depth of 6 millimeter or more. We can consider it the patient has stage 3 or 4. The normal crest of the alveolar process can be up to as much as 2 millimeter apical to the cemento-enamel junction. Yeah, as I told you before, so the normal crest of the alveolar process can be up to as much as 2 millimeter apical to the cemento-enamel junction. That means assessment of the quantity of bone loss must be considered from this point and not from the cemento-enamel junction itself. I think you need to focus on this sentence, because the normal crest of the alveolar process can be up to as much as 2 millimeter apical to the cemento-enamel junctions, and therefore assessment of the quantity of bone loss must be considered from this point and not from the cemento-enamel junction itself. Yeah, radiographically. Of course, sometimes when we do the clinical examination and we do the probing depth 0.5, sometimes the alveolar crest, when we do the probing depth and we can, the normal of the patient is 0.5, that means the patient has the normal of alveolar bone is 0.5, not 2 millimeter. That's according to the clinical examination. But when we do the interpretation on the radiographic, we consider that the patient still normal if below 2 millimeter from cemento-enamel junction. Because because we don't do the clinical examination on the patient. That's why we type radio diagnosis, not the diagnosis accurately, but radio diagnosis, the patient is mild or it's like that. But when you have your own patient, you do the anamnesis, you do the clinical examination, and sometimes when you do the probing depth, the alveolar crest, it's considered 0.5, not 2 millimeter, but 0.5. That means the normal of this patient of alveolar crest is 0.5. Yeah, that is the difference between clinical examination and radiographical examination. That's why sometimes you need to, you need to confirm about the clinical examination and the radiographic examination. Okay, now the classification that we use, that we still use until now, to radio diagnosis in radiology department is mild, moderate, and severe. So what is mild, moderate, and severe? Horizontal bone loss may be mild, moderate, or severe depending on its extent. Maybe when you do the diagnosis on periodontology department, maybe stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. But under department, radiology department, we still use mild, moderate, or severe. Mild bone loss may be defined as loss of 20% or approximately 1 to 2 millimeter of the normal supporting bone height. So when you do the interpretation and you measure by ruler, and you found that the alveolar crest is already decreased 1 to 2 millimeter of the normal supporting bone height, then you can write the radio diagnosis is mild periodontitis or maybe localized mild periodontitis. Moderate loss is loss of between 20% or approximately 2 mm and 50% of the supporting bone height. Oh yeah, mild from irregularity, mild from irregularity until 2 mm from normal supporting bone height. Moderate, more than 2 mm until 50% of the supporting bone height, or 1/3 of the root of the tooth. And severe loss is anything beyond this point. So more than 50% of the root line. Okay. Next.
Cara tahu supporting height, the height of the supporting bone itu gimana? Kan dia udah decrease. So like how do you know the previous height already?
That's why we use 2 mm from alveolar, from CAJ as a normal point. Yeah. So you decide which one is mid-terminal junction, and then you measure 2 mm. That is the point of the patient still considered as normal. Below that, that is normal. Of course, sometimes when the cortical bone is not intact, you automatically can consider that is already mild. Okay, now we start the interpretation using the form from the argument. So you already got this form last week. As always, we do the quality evaluation. The object is covered and located. This is the radiograph. The object is located in the middle of the radiograph. So you decide which one is that specific view. As always, you already decide which one is the specific view. In this case is 31 in here, first incisive, the left side. And the contrast, detail, and sharpness of the radiograph are good, and the dental area is clear, and then the radiograph can be interpreted. Okay. We then focus on the evaluation. Okay. Almost the same as last week. The general view include teeth condition. Which one is the anomaly condition? In this row, we only write the anomaly condition, not the pathologic condition. The pathologic condition we write in the second row in here. The pathologic condition such as caries or periodontitis and something like that. The pathologic condition. The teeth condition such as the malposition of the teeth, dental anomalies, we write on the teeth condition. So in here, you can see that some of the teeth, there are teeth with delaceration. Some of the teeth are delaceration. Do you know delaceration? Yes. And then some of the teeth is malposition. You can see malposition in some of the teeth. And the next one is, now we do is there any pathology condition according to this image? There is a radiopaque mass. This is the plaque and calculus. There is a radiopaque mass on the neck of the tooth that match the calculus appearance of almost all teeth on the radiographs. This one. You can write like this. Okay. Because this is the interpretation of periodontal condition. So usually you can see the calculus. The next one is the relation of the teeth. When we talk about the relation of the teeth, then we focus on the proximal contact and occlusal line. So how is the proximal contact and occlusal line? Proximal contact, is it good or not? Some of the teeth, the proximal contact is good. Bad. Missing contact points on some teeth. And occlusal line, is it good or not?
No.
This is also not line. This is bad. You can see. So you can assume that this patient maybe have foot retention or foot infection because the occlusal line is not really good. The next one is periodontal condition. Periodontal ligament condition. You only decide if there's a normal or change. If there's a change, then you write there's changes in the periodontal ligament. That's all. Only normal or change. And what kind of the changes that happen in this periodontal ligament, you write on the continuous row in here. So radiographic changes in periodontal ligament. If there's a change, write down the changes in detail. There is cortical bone loss. There is cortical bone loss and decreased alveolar crest from cervical 1/3 until to the middle 1/3 in some teeth. Until from cervical into the middle. Okay. Now because you already know the normal anatomy of periodontal condition, now you can write like this. Maybe last week you just a little bit confused how to measure the periodontal condition. But right now you can say that cortical bone loss is already lost. Cortical bone is already lost, and there's a decreased alveolar crest from cervical 1/3 to the middle in some of the teeth. And there's loss of lamina dura and periodontal space in here on the cervical, because some of the teeth already alveolar bone was already lost until 1/3 of the middle. So lamina dura and periodontal spaces considered also lost in the cervical. And then some of the teeth some of the tip have a thickening of the lamina dura. So how do we know there's some of the tip has a thickening of the lamina dura? We measure other tip. So reference side. We need to remember the reference side, which is we measure with another tip in this patient on the single image. Yeah. Can you understand? Hello. Yeah.
But if you want to see if the thickening of the lamina dura, we should see like on the tip that is not affected with periodontal disease condition.
Yeah.
But then like what if it's like all of them is already like
Affected
all
of the periodontitis.
yeah.
That means that the object is not covered, because we can assume that this patient has generalized of periodontitis. That's why we need more than one single image. We need to write on the quality of evaluation that this object is not covered. What the meaning of it? There are 3 points that you need to remember when you decide the object is not covered or not. The first one is objects covered if the purpose of the examination is achieved. Yeah. So if the purpose of the examination is achieved, then the object is covered. The second one, object is covered if you evaluate the lesion. If you evaluate the lesion, then the outline of the lesion is covered on the image. The outline of the lesion is covered on the image. That is the object covered. And the third one, if there's a reference site. That means if you see the periodontitis, then almost all the tip is periodontitis, moderate or severe. That means you can assume maybe this patient has a generalized periodontitis. Then in this case, you can write the object is not covered, but it still can be interpreted. Yeah. Because on the specific view, you only focus on the one tooth. Okay. And
If someone has general periodontitis
Mhm.
and but then like if we need to view like a lot of the teeth,
but
like panoramic is like not as detailed.
no, not panoramic. Full mode X-ray, which is by doing or periapical radiography.
But like big
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Maybe more than 10. It depends on the tip. Yeah, it depends on the tip, on the patient. That's why we need the clinical examination first. Is it moderate or severe? Is it by twin or periapical radiography? Yeah,
or if it's still moderate, we can still use the
by twin. Because by twin can give us upper and lower jaws, so it's less radiation to give into the patient. Okay, good question. Next.
Lihat lihatmu
Kita mesti minum kopi dulu ya.
Yeah.
You want this demonstrate?
Okay. The next one is the association among the association
between teeth and periodontal ligament.
uh, so presence of radiopaque mass that match the calculus appearance on almost all teeth, missing point of contact, uneven lines of occlusion causing change in periodontal tissue. Yeah. So you write, can you imagine? So because this patient has a missing proximal contact and the occlusal line is not good, that's why there's a food retention on the patient, and then maybe with accumulation of
time,
it will change into the plaque and calculus. And
because of the plaque and calculus,
because of the plaque of the calculus,
as we know, plaque calculus is a
deposit of bacteria,
that's why
it will eat.
it will eat
Yeah, it will.
make
That is pathologic.
condition nanti jadi ganti nanti lagi bedain. Oh ini mau dicek pakai kopi.
Okay. So that's why so that makes the periodontal tissues becomes decrease. Yeah. Because the condition of the teeth, which is the proximal contact and occlusal line, are not good. The next one is radiographic jawbone condition. Is there any change or not? Just like that. In this case, there is no change in the density and pattern of the jawbone because we still evaluate the periodontal condition. Maybe later when we in the advanced module, when we learn about the systemic condition, maybe there will be changes on the pattern. So almost all of the radiographs is there is no change in the density and pattern of the jawbones. And the association among teeth, periodontal ligament, and jawbone. So you write all of the association in here. You can write it again. You can copy paste it. Presence of radiopaque mass that match the calculus appearance on almost all teeth, missing point of contact, uneven line of occlusion, causing changes in periodontal tissue. That will be enough. But sometimes if you want to make it more detailed, I mean agak kerajinan gitu ya, gak apa-apa. You can write this like this. Changes in the periodontal tissue, you can write just like the changes in the periodontal. And what is the change? You can copy paste again this one. So uneven line of occlusion causing cortical bone loss and decrease alveolar crest from cervical 1/3 to the middle. There's a loss of lamina dura and so on, just like that. Okay, until now, is there any question?
Maybe step by step kali ya supaya gampang. Ya udah coba di interpret dulu deh. Jadi dijelaskan.
Beda. Kalau untuk change in jawbone itu gimana contohnya? Kalau periode kalau kena periode itu situ tangannya bukan change. Oh belum.
Jawaban di bawah under the iya boleh pakai extra